Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 163. Today's date, Wednesday, July 2nd. Here's how we're going to attack this. This is going to be almost like a free agency special in the first two segments. So instead of me doing an award tour, we're going to do a double shot of your tip-off topics. And then we'll get, obviously, into the scouting report in the WNBA for tip-off games on Thursday night. But let's start in Gotham. My hometown team, New York Knicks, have been very busy early on in free agency, but they had to find a coach. The last domino of the fall we'll talk about first, and that's Mike Brown being named head coach of the New York Knicks. That was according to Shams Charania. The two-time NBA Coach of the Year is the next head coach for the New York Knicks. And when people want to sit there and talk about, is this the right move for New York, and at the fact of, did they get the right person in regards to how this went about? And I know that people are upset with the firing of Tibbs, and I am a little bit too. But I'm going to quote something from Alan Hahn. Alan Hahn, if anybody knows, works for MSG, is so piped in, and I want to give him credit because he said it perfectly. Mike Brown, experience, check. Been to the finals, check. Success with stars/vets, check. Coach's defense, check. So to me, and someone this utilizes his bench, check, because obviously with Malik Monk, but when you kind of go through it, he's made the finals, right? He's coached guys like obviously LeBron James, right? He's coached guys like Domantas Sabonis. He's coached some superstar players. He was an assistant coach at Golden State, so he had to deal with Steph. He had to deal with Draymond. I don't think he's going to be scared of the media market. He plays defense, and he also plays his bench. I don't think this is the way we wanted it to go if you are a Knicks fan, but this is the way we went. And I know this may be unpopular with Knicks fans, but me as a coach, and I love Tibbs, this is an upgrade over Tibbs. You may not agree with me, but I think Mike Brown is a better coach than Tom Thibodeau for what he brings on both sides of the ball, especially learning the split action offense from Golden State. Now let's get to the moves. One of the problems people had with Tibbs is the bench. Well, the Knicks addressed their bench, and they addressed their bench in a major way. First off, getting Jordan Clarkson from Utah. I talked about after the draft, right, of Ace Bailey, that I said, what did I say? I said Clarkson, Collins, Markkanen, Sexton. 2 out of 4 had to be let go. Well, 2 of them are gone, and they've each found new homes. And Jordan Clarkson is the perfect sixth man for New York. His ability to shoot the ball and create shots. And then obviously that backcourt with Deuce McBride forms a formidable second unit. And there can be times where they can go 3-guard offense and play Clarkson some minutes with the starters. Speaking of the bench, landing Yabusele, I think, was a shrewd move by Leon Rose. 2 years, $12 million for a guy that I think defensively can play, ready, folks? 3-4-5, right? Which means he makes him valuable, more valuable than Precious Achiuwa. You have a little bit of protection if Mitch Robb or Cat are out with an injury. Can play some minutes with the starters. Really dynamic. Showed his mettle, obviously, last year in the Paris Olympics, but also did some things, obviously, during this past year with Philadelphia. Philadelphia's loss is the Knicks' gain. Huge getting Yabusele from the Sixers. Speaking of big gets, the shocking move of free agency so far is Myles Turner. Myles Turner signed a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks, plus a player option for the fourth year, with the fourth year being at 28-29 with a 15% trade kicker. When you look at this team, okay, let's talk about additions first, right? Myles Turner, Gary Harris from Orlando, obviously Gary Trent coming back, being 3, notable moves. It is, I think, even for what they lost. The reason why I say it's even is how this went about. They decided to release Damian Lillard on what they call a stretch provision. They stretch out his remaining $113 million in order to acquire Myles Turner and have the money. Because otherwise, they didn't have the money to make it work. I think this is an interesting play by Milwaukee. I don't think it's very popular with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He lobbied for Dame. He wanted Dame. And I know he was going to be out the rest of the year. But that's a lot to give up in order to acquire, I'm going to be honest with you, a younger version of Brook Lopez. You tell me if you go down the line of Indiana in the playoffs and in the finals, is Myles Turner the most valuable? No. Is he the second most valuable? No, because we know Talbot and Siakam. Is he third most valuable? No. I can say T.J. McConnell. Is he fourth most valuable? No. That was Benedict Mathurin. Is he fifth most valuable? Maybe not Aaron Naismith? So you're talking to me about maybe the sixth most valuable player in the team. And it tells you something about what is going on in Indiana. If they don't resign, and didn't resign Pascal Siakam, they didn't give him the most money. And so resign Myles Turner with the most money. What does that tell you about what they think of him? But what does that tell you what they think about this year? Now you have Halliburton out. Now Myles Turner is gone. Unless you make a trade, you're possibly looking at Thomas Bryant as your starting center. Seems to me a little bit like Indiana's punting a little bit with this upcoming season. So to me, that's something to be on the lookout for. Is obviously the slide of the Indiana Pacers, obviously with the Knicks with the moves with Mike Brown, Yabusele, obviously, and Jordan Clarkson. The Knicks and obviously the Cavs are the favorites in the East, and probably you put Orlando in that 3 spot. Let's head to the West, where Jaren Jackson Jr. got the bag. Now, I was talking about could Jaren Jackson Jr. be the next domino to fall when Desmond Bane got traded? Well, he was the next domino to fall. He collected all the dominoes. As Jaren Jackson Jr., sit down, folks, signed a 5-year, $240 million max extension to stay with Memphis. And here is the best part. The next day, he had a procedure done in Jaren Jackson Jr. fashion. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a phenomenal player. I love his game. But I think he needs to be protected by a big body center. Zach Edey's out for the year. Steven Adams is where he played his best ball. So I don't know. I don't think this makes them markedly better. I mean, to me, it's about what they put at the pivot next to him and next to Ja. But you got to trust Memphis and how they draft and how they do things. I love this kid. I think he's a phenomenal player. I just don't know if he's worth the max. Lastly, SGA just got paid. Well, it's Wednesday night. The song is Friday night. But SGA got paid $285 max, super max, 4-year deal. And well-deserved. Richest annual salary for a player in league history. Folks, you know why SGA is deserving of that? Because right now, if you ask Coach Young, SGA is the best player in the NBA. Coming up next, we took one foul shot. I think I knocked it down. We'll come back with another set of tip-off topics. I don't even know. I may need a third foul shot. There's so much to get into. But we'll try to do so as tip-off topics. Part 2 comes up after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 163. And let's continue with our tip-off topics with a flurry of free agency moves that impacts both teams in the Eastern and Western Conference. Let's begin with a trade. I said after the season with Denver that there were going to be moves. And I basically said that someone was going to be moved, and he was moved. And that was Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. was traded from the Denver Nuggets to the Brooklyn Nets, and in exchange for Cam Johnson, Michael Porter Jr., I should say, and an unprotected first-round pick, go to Brooklyn as part of that deal. And when you think about it, both sides is Cam Johnson is a shorter, better, I don't want to say better, more consistent shooter than Michael Porter Jr., right? Michael Porter Jr. that sometimes shot the ball like excellently and was sometimes just absolutely dreadful. Never rebounded the ball as much as I thought he should at about 6'10". So Denver had to make a move. And they weren't trading Jamal Murray. They obviously weren't trading Nikola Jokic. Although the owner, Kroenke, made the wildest accusation last week saying that if someone got hurt, then possibly they could move the Joker. I mean, if I gave my Big Dummy award out like I used to, he would get your Big Dummy for opening up his mouth and saying something so stupid. But to me, Michael Porter Jr. going to Brooklyn makes sense for Denver. It doesn't make sense for Brooklyn because Brooklyn is trying to suck. Brooklyn used all 5 draft picks. Now, granted, they didn't go get a power forward, so maybe this is their power forward, Michael Porter Jr. But to me, a Brooklyn team is going nowhere, made a trade for a guy that maybe will be flipped in a year, a guy that could be a difference maker if he becomes more consistent. But to me, Denver absolutely won this trade in regard to going so. And obviously, when you talk about Denver, one person I've talked about them missing over the years was Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is back with Denver. Now, could it be 2 years too late? I don't know. But he was such a critical part of that 2023 NBA championship team coming off the bench, playing point forward, playing defense, knocking down threes. So Bruce Brown returns to Denver. So looking at Denver getting Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown, that makes them markedly better in my opinion. Staying out west and talking about returning, how about Clint Capella heading back to Houston on a 3-year, $21.5 million deal? And I think this is a really good deal for the Houston Rockets. This is someone that could play the center position. Now, it's going to be interesting because I do believe they've re-signed Steven Adams as well. So they got both of those guys at the pivot. But I think it's still a good move for someone that is a shot blocker, rim protector, rebounder, not much of an offensive threat. But when you got scores like Van Vliet, Shepard, Whitmore, Durant, Jabari, Şengün, Tari Eason, you just need a guy that's going to fill up space, get rebounds, block some shots. Insurance policy, but good insurance policy to have. Speaking of making shots, Houston also turned around and signed Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year deal worth about $53 million. I'm going to say this. I said this last podcast, but I want to go through this one more time. Van Vliet, let's just say Shepard in the backcourt. Thompson, Durant, Şengün, front court. Whitmore, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Dorian Finney-Smith. Folks, there's not a deeper team in the NBA right now. And they got arguably one of the top 3 coaches. I'm going to say this right now. Houston is a legit, I'm saying this, a legit threat to win the NBA title. I'm not saying it like because they're the second favorite odds. I'm saying like in a 7-game series, I think Ime Udoka can outcoach Mark Daigneault. And they got just as much depth and just as many pieces. That is going to be a wild Western Conference. And if those two meet in the finals, that is a 7-game series. Speaking of and staying out west, let's stay out west with what I should have mentioned in the last segment, but I want to mention Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome had a great year last year with the Cleveland Cavs. It should have been in the conversation for 6-man. He signed a 3-year, $28 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. It's a perfect get because of the fact that they lost Desmond Bain. So they get a player, in my opinion, that is not much worse than Desmond Bain for what? I'm going to say a quarter of the cost, a third of the cost. Ty Jerome can hoop, and he's going to be really good in that backcourt with John Morant and should have an increased role as a starter. Good deal by the Memphis Grizzlies to turn around and get Ty Jerome. Let's head east to end this segment and talk about Atlanta. Atlanta picked up Nickeil Alexander-Walker from Atlanta via a sign and trade in which he then got 4 years, $62 million from the Hawks. This is a really rugged defender that can knock down shots from the three-point line, and it really sets up a really interesting time in Atlanta. Why? We talked about last podcast getting Kristaps Porzingis. If healthy, I still think Kristaps is a top 10 center, top 12 center in the NBA, and has the ability to shoot the ball from three and stretch the floor. But it's more than that. They also went and got Luke Kennard, who probably is the best straight-up shooter that was in the free agency class. So you look at the fact they lost a guy like Bogdanovich, who was a shooter last year in the trade that obviously they made during the season, and now they went and they got to be a better shooter than Bogdanovich and Luke Kennard. You look at Atlanta, a team that's been middling for so long, and I've talked about either you're winning or you're rebuilding. I hate middling, but with the way the Eastern Conference is set up right now and the moves that Atlanta made, if Atlanta does not make the playoffs, meaning the top 6 seeds, I will say this, Quinn Snyder should be fired. When we come back, we'll get into our scouting report as we break down a bunch of games in the WNBA tipping off on Thursday night. We'll be back with the scouting report of the WNBA after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 163. We didn't forget about the W, folks. So the scouting report is solely based on the W, 5 games in the WNBA on Thursday night. And let's get down to business. Leading off with Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces as a slight 2 to 2.5 point favorites on the road, taking on the newly crowned Commissioner Cup champion Indiana Fever and Kelsey Mitchell. So wait a minute. Fever plus the points at home after winning the Commissioner's Cup. I'm going with the Las Vegas Aces on the money line. I think this is a big spot for Vegas. They need to kind of get themselves going because they've been wildly inconsistent. Hopefully the last couple of days have been good for them. Indiana probably does not still have Caitlin Clark back. But to me, you look at a team that's the better team. I know they haven't played better, but damn it, the back of the basketball card tells you got to look at and take the Las Vegas Aces. So I will take them on the money line on the road. Game number 2, 5-12 LA Sparks versus a really struggling New York Liberty team, which I do believe may have started 10-0, if I'm not mistaken, but they've run into a really big, rough stretch since Jonquel Jones, Leona Fibic both got injured. He even had Naira Sabally miss a game. I have to go with the Liberty minus 12.5. I think they needed some time off. I know they don't have Jonquel back, but damn it, this team is way better than what they're playing. Sandy Bordella's got to do a better job with this team. They have 2 of the top 5 players in the world, and they're playing like you know what. Oh my God, I almost cursed. Thank goodness I caught myself. Give me the New York Liberty laying the 12.5 points to get the win and the cover versus the LA Sparks. Game number 3, really good matchup. Really good matchup of the 10-7 Seattle Storm with Onyeka Onwuemeke heading to the Dirty to take on Ryan Howard and the surging Atlanta Dream Team that's 11-6, only a half game behind the New York Liberty in the Eastern Conference. So for me, it's very simply put, why am I going to go against Atlanta? Now, the interesting thing about this game is this. Both teams, this is quality big play. Quality big play, right? Onwuemeke, Megabur, Gabby Williams, Malonga, right? Brianna Jones, Brittany Griner. You could argue, besides Stewie, Asia Wilson, Nafisha Collier, I mean, this is probably 5 of the top 10 bigs in the W playing in one game. So I'm going to go under 161.5. I think this will be a really good game, tightly contested. Both teams will lock in defensively. Give me under 161.5 in Storm Dream. Game number 4, the team that I told you, I hope you bet at 24.5 because you're at 30.5. And that's the Phoenix Mercury and Alyssa Thomas -8 on the road, taking on an improved Paige Beckers and 5-13 Dallas Wings. You got to go with the 12-5 Phoenix Mercury -8 on the road. They're just so dynamic. And with Alyssa Thomas being able to dime people up, and you have 2 20-point-a-game scores in Kalia Kopp, who's working her way back still, and Satu Sabali. I know Dallas has been better. They've been much better. But to me, Phoenix is really, I'm going to say this, and people may disagree. I think they're the 3rd best team in the WNBA right now. I know the Liberty are not playing well, but still, when they're healthy and they're rolling, I think the Liberty are the best team in the league, or Minnesota 1-2, and I think it's Phoenix, and then I think it's Indiana. And then right behind them is probably a team like Seattle. So I like the, obviously, the Phoenix Mercury -8.5 on the road. Last game, Mystics, Lynx, -11.5. The Mystics are another surprise team, even though they're under 500, 8-9. I look at this game, and the Mystics are really good at covering big spreads. I think Minnesota gets the win, but Washington gets the cover. So really quick, to go through all the games really quick. We're going to go with Vegas on the money line. We're going to go with the Liberty minus the points. We're going to go with under 161 in Storm Dream. And we're going to go minus the points with Phoenix. And then we're going to go with Washington plus the points. This has been Betting About the Rim podcast, episode 163. For all things sports gambling, you know what to do. Download the Sports Grid app. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny does a great job with the graphics. Thanks for always listening, folks. Happy 4th. And remember, smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night.